Sometimes families come to me in tears because they feel stuck. Their parents can't safely stay in the big family home anymore, but assisted living feels either too expensive, too far away, or just not culturally right. I've seen adult children wrestling with guilt. They want mom close, but also need space for their own kids. I've seen seniors resist moving because they want independence, but at the same time, they can't manage the stairs, the upkeep, or the isolation of living alone. Hi, I'm Dale Corpus, a senior transition specialist and real estate expert based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I am also part of the sandwich generation, just like many of you, raising kids and also managing my aging parents. Here's my promise to you. Every episode of this show brings you real stories, practical tools, and expert insights to make senior living transitions easier so you and your loved ones can move forward with confidence instead of stress. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Möller, the founder and CEO of Synbuy Home, a company pioneering luxury accessory dwelling units, ADUs, as affordable, scalable housing for families. Her work is helping seniors age in place, supporting multi-generational households, and giving families more flexible option than just sell the house and move into a facility. Rebecca has been featured in outlets like Business Insider and Harvard's Advanced Leadership Initiative, and she's on a mission to rethink how housing can serve families, especially those caring for aging loved ones. We're going to talk about why ADUs are becoming a powerful option for seniors, how her company builds affordable luxury at scale, and what families in the Bay Area and beyond need to know if they're exploring this path. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast, where we help families navigate senior living, real estate, and everything in between. Hosted by Senior Transition Specialist Dale Corpus, this show brings you expert insights, real solutions, and stress-free strategies to make senior transitions simple. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
And we're back, everybody. Rebecca, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Dale. I'm really excited to be here.
You're welcome. I love that the ADUs, accessory dwelling units, are just taking off. I love the fact that I brought you on because I'm in real estate. This is connected to real estate as well. I'm going to jump into the first question. Can you share the story of what inspired you to create Synbuy Home?
Yeah, I came to the Bay Area to oversee high-rise residential towers in the South Bay. And I come from a commercial construction background, big commercial construction. And I soon realized that we really weren't building anything. We just had a bunch of billboards around town building up land costs by the aggregation. I read an article in the BBC and got inspired about how Berlin and London and LA were solving their housing crisis. And it was with the fit out of garages. And what I saw was a highly scalable model where I could make a unit that I could clip into place into an existing space, whether it be a garage, whether it be part of a house, or even in a commercial building, and convert it from its former use to a new use, a higher use. I've kind of really evolved into both the conversion as well as now I'm in the backyard as well. And just starting to crawl into the commercial, which is a different type of client. But it's really being able to say we've got 1 billion square foot of real estate right now that's empty office buildings across the United States. And I've done adaptive reuse, so I've got the background. So my impetus was really to solve a problem because I'm a change agent. I'm like, take it from one place and take it to another. And I was super frustrated not being able to get anything in the ground. And so this is kind of like my last act. And I thought really want to do something I care about. When I migrated to the senior place, I really have a heart for it. My mother was an administrator of nursing homes when I was growing up, and we would go to the nursing homes and we would help her. We saw some really hard things. She was a real advocate for being able to take care of these human beings. And a lot of them weren't being treated that way. And so when it comes to a family, in the Bay Area, we have such a great diversity of population that there are a lot of families that just naturally do it based on their culture. I found more and more that Caucasian people are starting to do it too, which you expect it in certain cultures. Others, you don't always see it. But it's been really beautiful to help a family, help them make a decision and create a beautiful space. Because one of the things I was really committed to, it's a small space with high dignity. And so I have really, really high end materials that I use because it's for longevity, but it's also to feel the dignity of the space. So there were a lot of things make sense of why I started this, but it was really to solve a problem.
Yeah. For our audience that doesn't know you yet, where is your business located and where are you building these ADUs?
Right now, I'm in Northern California. I'm actually located in San Francisco. I started in the Bay Area. I've been in the East Bay, and now I'm in San Francisco. And I've been down the peninsula and in San Jose, Santa Clara, Daly City, Burlingame, and I'm just about to start one in San Francisco. I've gone through the hoops with all of the different building departments. I have an HCD approved design, which basically means the state housing authority has given me a stamp on the design for the units that I have, and they can be inspected off-site before they get to the site, so it makes it easier. And my commitment is how can I simplify this and take the big lift out of it so that when we're in the field, it's not like a construction site. It's much less like a construction site and more like putting a kit together. And so I've had really great reception from all of the building, and I'm pre-approved in San Jose, and I'm the only company doing conversions that's pre-approved.
Okay, perfect. Now, how did your background prepare you for tackling the senior housing challenge?
Well, if we go back to the entire background, I've been keeping contractors accountable and designers accountable for their designs so that at the end of the day, it's on time, on budget. We actually know what it's going to cost. We don't lie to ourselves at the beginning. So I was handling really big firms nationally for Fortune 500 companies. And when I started this company, it's like, how do I protect the end user, their interests? Because they don't understand construction. And this is an area that really they can be taken advantage of. And I have extensive experience. These are really small projects for me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of details, and I am committed to examining what we're doing, knowing that we have everything included and accounted for so that when I give them a number, it's the real number. It's not like, designers don't know what anything costs. So if you hire a designer first, you've got a problem to begin with. God bless designers. But when it comes to holding a budget, then the contractor gives you a number, and then they get the construction drawings, and then they say, I didn't have this, 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 and this, and then your number swells, and you've already made a big investment in putting the documents together. So for me, I am taking it from napkin sketch to the end. I include everything. I take it through permits, I oversee all of the design so that it's all in-house and controlled.
Got it. What problem did you see in senior housing or multi-generational living that nobody was solving?
I didn't start this company for it to be a cracker box that gets put in the backyard. I come from a place of building, so it's not just making a buck or coming up with something clever. It was really coming up with the quality, and I've spent a lot of time on the quality. And I've had clients where they thank me for creating a palace for their mother being just like, look how beautiful this is. This is the most beautiful place I've ever lived. And those are really, really great feedback for me because it's like I'm successful in what I'm doing. I'm helping them transition into which can be a difficult, but it can't just be, they've thought about it early enough that they have a lot of life left and they want to spend time with the grandkids. They spend time partly there. It can be a transition place. I just think that being able to gracefully age in place with dignity is just in my heart.
Yeah. I like the name of your company, Sin by Home. Does it have any special meaning? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's a composite. So the sim was to represent before. It's a prefix, right? And the biome was a play on the microbiome in that without diversity in our neighborhoods, just like in our gut, we can't be healthy. And so we need a diverse play on the types of socioeconomics as well as just the type of construction and build and housing. So now that we can sell our ADUs, right? It also opens up the door for people being able to have home ownership. And these are the type, my units are some that you would go in and you go, I really want to live here. And they're going to last a long time. They're really clean and green. The idea is diversity and health.
You often use the phrase housing at scale. What does that mean in practice?
It means being able to do more than one at a time. And so when you think and I come from a big place. And so this, I put myself to the task of creating a product, right? And so what I see, though, is something that's much larger. So, and it doesn't necessarily work in every building, but there's certain buildings that it will work in where they are one use and they can be used for another. And right now they're empty or they're really low income and you can turn it around and make it a profitable piece of real estate. And so I look at like 300 at a time. And it means that I can build the units offsite, we get the building ready, and then we can stack them into place. And so if you go to my website, you have two ways of entry: homeowners, then you've got commercial real estate. And if you go to the commercial real estate, you'll see some examples of what a floor plate would look like, and that we could do a mix and match based on market studies and be able to optimize the floor plate. And even if you go into a building, it doesn't have to be all one use. It can be mixed use. I've done mixed use projects, right? Now, on a commercial level, where they started out mixed use, where it's a garage, a retail, an office building, and a condominiums up above. And so I know the mechanics of being able to make that work. I worked on the East Coast. I started in Texas. Then I worked in Philadelphia and Manhattan, and then I came out to San Francisco, or the Bay Area. And so my background helps me to see, and I come from a cost background, so I think everything with cost. Because I was trained to do estimating in all trades, quantity surveys. So when I went to work for general contractors, which I did in Dallas and then Philadelphia, I came from a cost background. So I was solving problems not only to make things work, but make the budgets work.
Yeah.
So it's just, I know that I know. And that's really why I started this. It's like knowing in my bones, we're not going to be doing anything out of the ground at scale because it's too expensive, too slow. The dollars just aren't there. At $1 million a unit, you can't build at scale. And so being able to tackle the problem so that I could build at scale and that multiple, that's really what got me excited.
And for listeners who aren't familiar, what exactly is an ADU and why are they becoming such a big deal in California?
Yeah, ADU is an acronym for accessory dwelling unit. And in 2019, state laws were changed so that on one lot, a home R1 zoning, homeowner's lot, instead of only being able to have one living unit, we can now have two. And that has expanded to actually 3, in that one can be attached to the house and accessible by the house and small, and then you can have another in the backyard. You can also make them into the house, but that's getting more complicated. But the ADU is the way of being able to add more housing without having to have more land, because we don't have the land. And over the years between 2019 and now, the laws have expanded where now we can sell our ADUs. They become more lenient and more pro-housing so that can solve problems for their family, or they can buy real estate, split lots, make 4 houses out of one. So it's really a multiplier is why they're here and why they're so exciting.
Okay. So for clarification purposes, one way somebody could do an ADU, maybe a quick way, is to convert the garage into living space. And that itself could be an ADU, right?
Yes.
And then there's
be.
also a detached version if the lot's big enough, and you could put a detached ADU on the lot as well.
Yeah,
right?
you can do attached or detached garage.
Okay.
I have one where it was a split level. They kept their garage, and there was a big room next to the garage that was just full of junk. I turned it into a beautiful, accessible suite for a mother. And then in the backyard, there are different sizes. You can go from less than 500 square feet all the way up to some cases 1,200 square feet or 1,000 square feet.
Okay. Do the ADUs have separate addresses, or how does that work?
They do. In my experience, it's been like an A or B.
Got it.
There's also in Santa Clara, they actually gave me a new address because they had numbers that were remaining on the street. But in most cases, the numbers aren't remaining. And then it's an A and a B. And you have to have that visual, because if there's an emergency or a fire, the 911 calls, you need to be able to get to where you're going.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are the main ways you see families using ADUs for senior living?
It's interesting. Not everybody wants to move, right?
Right.
And so one of my first ones was for a caregiver. So 80-year-old parents, I was working with the daughter. It made it where we could have a space where if somebody was there with them, freed up the backyard because the father enjoyed being outside in the sun. His backyard was a sanctuary. Yeah. And so it could be for a caregiver. In that instance, it was also the kids coming. So they lived someplace else and they'd be able to stay at the home with their parents while their dad was going to the hospital or doing stuff. And it really helped the family have their individual space and could breathe. I had another one where 2 brothers owned a property. This is in Burlingame. They had a detached garage, and they said, okay, we want a third unit because had rented out both floors of the main house. And so I made a beautiful one bedroom rental for them. It's Burlingame, but it rented immediately for $3,000 a month. So it was a great turn for them to increasing their income. And then the interest rates are really high. They have a really small house. They had another baby on the way. They didn't have enough bedrooms. And so they had a really small one car garage that was next to the small house. It was less than 1,000 square feet house. And I was able to create a beautiful suite that was attached to the house through a little laundry room for the daughter to live. And so it had a full bathroom, nice closet area, and then a door that exits out the side or to the house. So it can be to expand the footprint because it just makes sense because you're not going to be able to sell the house and find another place to live. It could be that you want to bring aging parents. I've had many people that are looking for a house and they're saying, okay, which house is going to help me to convert it? One guy, he said, I'd rather have a detached than attached because I don't want to be closing the door in my mother-in-law's face. It's easier outside. I had another that's a casino for a mom and dad, and they were still living in Florida, but they'd come up and stay for a period of time. And a lot of times that's like the starting point. Like, let's build something so when relatives come, in-laws come, they can have a place to stay and they're not like on top of one another. But it also is a perfect way for the parents to get accustomed to having a space to stay, and they can start to imagine themselves living in it. In one instance recently, and the daughter said, we got to have some boundaries here because the parents, after they started to live in it, they said, oh, I think we can live here 12 months out of the year. His daughter was like, that was not the original agreement. But I take that as a compliment because they loved it so much.
Yeah.
And it's a high quality space. It's not something you're going to walk in and go, it's always nicer than the house because it's more like a commercial condominium build.
Yeah.
I actually went to this high rise Allure,
In Santa Clara.
in Santa Clara, right? And so I'm looking at all the finishes they're using. And aside from not having 96-inch doors, I just have 80-inch doors. I'm using the same finishes. I'm using solid wood, solid core doors, using the same kind of tops in the bathroom, same kind of fixtures. So it's like I've taken that level of finish and put it into a space. And some people can't imagine, oh, it's just an old danky garage. Hey, you can really make it a beautiful space. And I've got this signature lighting I put in my first model, and I'm so glad that I did because it's uplighting and it's on a trough around the rooms and it's on a dimmer. And so it reflects off of the ceiling. And it really makes it for really feeling a tall space and sophisticated. So it's just a nice touch that doesn't cost $1 bazillion, but it really did make a difference. And people always commented on it.
What myths or misconceptions do families have about ADUs that you'd like to clear up?
I don't think, and maybe this they just have to go into an apartment. And I wouldn't even say go into an apartment building because they're not built very well. The misconception is it's not going to be high quality. It's a really small space. My gosh, that's so small.
Right.
But I say we can put a tough shed in the yard. You can have a shed to be able to put your stuff in if you need to, or extra storage. We can build extra storage into it. Just depends on what your budget is. And that's kind of where I'd start, is to say, what kind of funds do you have available? What kind of space do you need for the use? And is a one bedroom going to be enough, or does it need to be a 2-bedroom so some grandkids could come stay with you, or you just have a little place to do your crafts and whatnot? And so it's really, I think, size sometimes. And it's like, well, I don't want somebody on my property. Well, if it's for your parents, you can make it a distance. A lot of these lots are really deep, right? And so you can make it its own little oasis. You can have a fence. You can, and it doesn't have to be a fence. It could be greenery. There's just ways to make it. And I loved cleverness. And so there's just clever ways to make it where they have accessibility, they have a beautiful spot, and you do kind of have that separation. So I also tell people you can build the second one. It's a great wealth builder because now you've got 2 sellable assets. You don't just have one. You may not want to sell it, but in the long run, maybe your kids do, or maybe you want to live on it and then later. So there's just a lot of ways to skin it. If you're a senior who needs income, I'm really presenting with that option is that if you've got equity in your house, you can use that equity without having to make payments to build an ADU and to have a place to live and lease out the house. And we've got management companies that we can apply to it so that they have professionals taking care of it so they don't have to worry about it. And they can live in their own oasis, and we can make it where it's their own oasis, where they have privacy. So I think the misconceptions, maybe I can envision things, maybe you can as well. Not everybody can. Now, some people look at a floor plan, they don't even know what they're looking at. So I have like eye guides, which you do too, so that people can like walk through spaces. So it's really being able to imagine. I do renderings, right? So they can see what it would look like in different standing points. But
Right.
those are all things to make it where it's optimized.
So just for everybody's clarification, iGuide is almost like a Google Street View, like a 360 virtual tour, right? That you can see. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. And you can just
Now-
stop along the way. You can zoom in on materials. You can just see everything.
Okay. Now let's talk about the Sin by Home difference. There are a lot of builders out there. How is Sin by Home's model different from just building a small unit in the backyard?
The materials,
Okay.
materials. First of all, I source all the materials. So when I have a contractor, they're the labor, providing the labor for the installation. So I have control over what shows up at the job site. When I build the walls, they have mineral wool insulation. That may not matter to you. You think fiberglass is the same, but it's not. Mineral wool doesn't grow things. It keeps its integrity even when it gets wet or damp. And then I use a drywall that is resistant to moisture and mold. Everything in the space does not give off any kind of volatile substance. So they're called VOCs, but it's volatile organic compounds. So that when you walk into the space, you're not smelling things. I use exterior grade plywood to level the floor so that we're actually elevated above the slab so that you can insulate those and make it more comfortable. I put cork on the floor so that it's, cork loves water. And then I use bamboo click flooring. That bamboo is good to resist moisture. You're not going to flood it, but it's not going to buckle. I don't use vinyl. I don't want vinyl. It stinks. And so, that's the first thing. And so then with the trim and the doors, I use solid core doors. You can select what kind of door frame if you want it 5-panel, 3-panel, 1-panel. And pocket doors or barn doors with a really beautiful rail up above. A lot of people like the barn doors, but it keeps it where you're optimizing the use of the space so that you're not having to worry about the swing of the doors. And then just the paint, I don't have popcorn on the floor, the walls or the ceiling. It's a smooth finish. Okay. It's called the level floor 4 finish. That's just the no texture. And then I have a nice eggshell on the wall so that it's easy to clean. And then the ceiling, along with the little rail that I have that goes around, you don't see the light, but you see the reflection of the light on the ceiling. And so you just walk into a really regal space rather than it being, oh, this feels kind of, I turn the rail light off and I go, I'm so glad I had that rail lighting because it changes the feeling of the space altogether.
Okay. Can you walk us through a typical client journey from the first call to move in?
Yeah. So normally I start with a Zoom call. I have them send me some pictures, what they have, where their address is, and what the use is so that we can start the conversation. And what this does is it makes it where we can get on the same page and even see if it's feasible based on what budget they have. Because it usually does start with budget and use. So what do you have to spend? What are you considering? And if you're considering the garage is going to be much less expensive than the backyard will be. And then it's like, do you need it fully accessible? Most people think ahead and say, yeah, I want an accessible bathroom. And so I make it accessible. I don't have to put the grab bars in immediately, but the walls are reinforced to receive them when they're ready for them.
Yeah.
And we talk through that scope and I put together a proposal for them and I list a very detailed list of everything I have. And it's everything that belongs in the job. So I'm not leaving out anything purposely. And if I don't know what things are going to cost, I either put in an allowance or we carry it outside of my budget. Like the example would be the permits. I usually just say, this is what they're estimated to be. This is going to be your cost. This is my budget so that I don't have to worry about reconciling those. I put allowances in for the Appliances, I include the appliances. So everything's included when I give them a quote. And then we review that proposal. If they have some things that they want to do for finishes, I got one client that just started and she's colorful. And I said, if you want to pick different colors than what I use, you can use that. So I give the owner the freedom for it to finish. I just give them recommendations on what's going to make it feel the largest. So then I take it through making the drawings and get submitted to the city. The city goes through their review. I get the comments back. I respond to the comments. I get the permits. And in most cases, I purchase some of the very long lead items so that when we get the permits, we can start. And then we're on site anywhere from, it could be 4 to 12 weeks, depending on what the size of the project is. It's turn over the key, final with the city, final with the owner.
Perfect. Now, can you share a story of a family you worked with where the ADU made a life-changing difference?
Yeah. So I had a client in Daly City.
Yeah.
And, she had been talking to contractors. She was super afraid and frustrated because nobody was giving her a real answer. And she found me and I was able to give her a very competitive number. She wanted to keep her garage. She had an 80-year-old mother that had a house. She needed care. There was an internal family situation that she wanted to get her out of so that she could be the caregiver. And so I created a very accessible suite. Her mother was using a walker. So I didn't put internal doors, but I put a wall in between the bedroom and the living room and a fully accessible, beautiful bathroom and a nice sized closet. Looked onto the backyard, and it was for her 80-year-old mother. And so this was an example of what I finished. She said, "Thank you for making a palace for my mother." And her mother said, "This is the most beautiful place I've ever lived." And even she said at one point, I texted her for a referral. She goes, even when she's delirious, she looks up at the lighting and she goes, "Isn't that so beautiful?" But to know that your loved one to the very end is taken care of and it is a beautiful space, it's really like a hug. So it was life-changing. It solved what she needed. She felt really good about it. They loved the outcome.
I love that. In immigrants and multi-generational households, like many South Asian, Latino, and Asian American families, senior living is sometimes seen as taboo.
Yeah.
How have you seen ADUs break down those cultural barriers?
Well, they've allowed for a homeowner, a family, to solve a problem, or not a problem. They've allowed the family to provide for their overall family in a way that's inviting and natural. And so they're able to expand the footprint of the house, give privacy to a parent or parents, and make it where the family is still functioning. If they do it in the backyard, it's like a separate little casita for them. But it really is saying you have a place to come and we're going to make it beautiful for you. So it's really saying there's a solution, and it keeps the family unit together. And children being able to be with the grandparents in most cases is really great. So you have the 3 generations or more together.
Yeah. What's been the most surprising feedback you've gotten from seniors themselves who live in ADU?
I had one homeowner when I built it, and she was the homeowner with the caregiver, right? She said, "I want to live here." Highest compliment you can get. Yes, you do want to live here. It's beautiful. And that shouldn't be surprising, but it's rewarding. And I don't know, beyond just their embracing what that was provided for them, I wouldn't find that surprising, but rewarding. Surprising. I don't know that I've had surprise so much as it's just really understanding what the need was and being sure that we solved it at all levels. And I just can't emphasize it much. It has to do with design and construction and providing something. And it's not somebody coming in not knowing what things cost or dreaming and then having a solution you can't build. It's really saying, I want to hold your hand. We'll take you from the beginning to the end, and I'll take care of everything in between. No worries about that.
Yeah. Let's segue into some practical advice for families. What's the number one thing a family should consider before deciding to build an ADU?
If they can afford it. So that would be the first thing. And even with that, if you have a home and you have equity in it, there's ways to be able to afford it. It's really saying, how can we solve the puzzle? And then the next thing is, what space are they considering? And it goes back to affordability. Are you going to be able to afford to do a conversion more than you're going to be able to do the backyard? And the backyard's more expensive. And I'm not the cheapest ADU provider, but I bet in the end I'm probably the same price, maybe a little less, and not the hassle, because you won't get the full picture from most people. You can't, because they're not responsible for it. The contractor's not responsible for design. You've got a problem just to begin with. And I don't go back for changes unless the city requires something that we just really couldn't have been expected.
Okay. The question then regarding affordability, how affordable are your ADUs compared to traditional assisted living or memory care?
Oh, assisted living and memory care are so expensive. So if you look at this as saying, we'll do it for a caregiver, right? Let's convert the garage. You're, depending if it's attached, you're probably somewhere around 185. If you're detached, it could be anywhere from 200 to 220, depending on utilities.
Got it.
But let's say that you can rent that to someone at a lower amount and they can be your caregiver so that you're getting some income from it. They're getting free living and they're a check-in point. If it's full-time, then it's a different equation. But let's say that you use your equity, you build it, you have a place for someone to be, and you're able to pay. Because part of doing the reverse mortgage, it's interesting, there's a line of credit that's available as well, because they take out a certain amount. Part of it's available for being able to build the ADU. Part of it's left in and just builds over time. So there's sources and means to be able to do this. And I'd love to go over that with the proper mortgage person, but you'd be amazing what's possible. And I think it's just really understanding what the issue is and avoiding at all costs, unless you just have to, having to go into a facility. I mean, some cases you can't get around it. But in a lot of cases, and it goes back to that point too, plan ahead. Think about this ahead. Make it a suite that your parents can come to and they stay in and they enjoy. And then they can consider being able to move in when they need to.
Okay. Now, you threw out the term reverse mortgage. I take it that the majority of your customers that are seniors are financing building out this ADU in that manner, or are there other ways?
Most of them are paying for it. Some of them get HELOC. If the kids have it,
Yep.
it might be cash that they're paying. But early on, I asked the head of aging in Santa Clara County, I said, how are our seniors doing? And she said about 50% are doing well, 50% are. And again, having a heart for seniors and being able to solve a cash flow problem. If they have a means of being able to solve the cash flow problem, then let us help you and help you in a dignified way that's safe. I think that's probably the key word, is safe. And it may be working with your children. It's not always going to work with your children. It depends on the age of the person in the house. But if cash flow is an issue and you own a house, you can solve that. And it could be through building an ADU, having a fully accessible space so it's safe for you. And then it could be leasing out the house, which would be a bond for cash flow. And it solves the problem. So you can pay your property tax, you can pay your daily living, and you can have some spending money. So being able to lay those things out in a way that's, just very, very clear and honest with credible individuals is something that I have a heart to do, because I know that it solves a problem maybe people don't want to admit they have, but they do. Because even having funds has everything to do with the quality of your health.
Right.
And your lifestyle, so that you can live a healthy life and with longevity.
Yeah. Now, let's talk timelines. I would think that a garage conversion type of ADU is faster than a detached ADU. So
Yeah.
how long does the process usually take from start to finish on both of those?
I'd say it's about 6 months for a garage conversion, and I'll break it down for you. It takes about 6 weeks to get drawings put together with the structural analysis and to the city. I give the city like 2 months.
Okay.
It depends on where you are in line, but 60 days is probably about what I've been experiencing. Even though being pre-approved, they still have to look at the structural and I still have to get in line. And then the build from start to finish is really about 6 weeks. For a garage conversion, it could go to 8 weeks, because I've already got the materials available. There's no long lead pickups, and I'm feeding the job site the materials as they need them. And so that's that build. In the backyard, Same for drawings and going through the city. And I'd say that one's probably 8 to 12 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's less than a year. It's probably 6 months, 8 months, all
Okay.
said and done.
Got it. What mistakes do families often make when they first explore ADUs, and how can they avoid them?
They call an architect. God bless the architect. I'm just telling you. If your budget is not a concern, call the architect. Because that's the only way you're going to be happy, is if you don't have a budget constraint. But if you have a budget constraint, don't call the architect first. I can build off of other people's plans, but normally what I'll do is I'll optimize them and turn them into something different than what you have. But you can I've had it where people spend a whole lot of money on the front end and then they find out they can't afford to build it. So that front end planning piece, you really need to be able to see the whole picture all the way to the end and know that you're seeing it to the end, not just somebody's idea of what it should cost.
Yeah.
You really want to know what it costs. And I can give that to you. We can give that to you.
How do you see ADUs fitting into the larger ecosystem of senior housing and care?
If we can do some building conversions of office to residential or different use to residential, I think we can create communities. And so being able to have a community, I see an opportunity to be able to say, well, you could make it where you have your grocery store. You have everything that you need to make a community. And it can be vertically or it could be horizontally. Strip malls are like hurting, right? Instead of having the Halloween store once a year, there might be a better use for that place. And so it's being able to work with developers to be able to help them understand what buildings are right. I'm starting to envision an AI tool that will help identify buildings quickly to say, this one works, this one's not going to work, just because of the cost. Again, I know construction cost. The cost of the capital improvement, what the value of the building is, and what we can turn it into for revenue. But I really do see an expanse of continuum care. I've built those types of facilities from ground up with big developers. But I think there's an opportunity within communities to revitalize and create communities that are not far from home. And then just the ongoing for the family at the family residence.
Okay. What role do you see for professionals like me, senior transition specialists / realtors and placement agents, in helping families explore ADUs?
Well, I'd love to work with any of you to be able to, because it really does get back down to a financial conversation, right? And so it's like, I can just help you solve the puzzle of saying, well, you could do this or you could do that. Which one would work? How would that work in bundling it together if you're going to buy a property and build it at the same time? How much cash do you have? It's just the whole equation, because it really does come down to cost and the need. And I can build to the need any time. Like, tell me what the need is and we can work around that need. And it could be any kind of need. I'll give you the example of the 80-year-old mother. She had a walker, so we just didn't have doors everywhere. We just had it where she could circulate. So the circulation piece of it, accessibility around the bed, being able to get into the bathroom. It was a barn door. She had a roll-in shower that she could get into. The attachment for the head for the shower also had a lower attachment. I mean, just really thinking about the living in the space. And so really, if that's a need within the family, I would be a great partner to be able to help you with the family solve something that you're going to know what the cost is.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my last questions is this. What's one piece of advice you'd give every adult child of an aging parent about planning ahead for housing?
If you know that you're going to be in an area for a while and it's going to be home, and even if you don't, but your family has the need, the sooner you build one, maybe you have it in one house and you sell that house, you go to another house. But when they come to visit, if they can stay in this unit, then they're going to get very familiar and feel the openness of it. They're going to feel how comfortable it is, so that they could imagine themselves living there when the time comes. So that they need help and they need to relocate, they have a place to go. I think that's one of the biggest things. In your imagination as an aging person or as a child of an aging person, can you imagine what the next step would be? You may never have to take that step, but you have a convenience factor. So I'd say the sooner you build it, the better. I go back to the 80-year-old mother. She sold her house and she paid for the improvement. Her daughter just provided the space. So there's ways to be able to know that you're going to be able to pay for it at the time. Or if you're future proofing it, then I'd take out the HELOC. You know, it's 30 years, it's a low dollar amount, it's a great investment. Maybe, you know, I've got one in San Francisco right now with the families in the Midwest, and they're thinking about maybe even when they come to stay, they'll stay in the unit, and they'll get accustomed to the space. So just planning ahead, thinking ahead, it can be a great way to work into the conversation. I didn't have an easy mom's. It was not easy. I mean, the planning was way too late, and she just did not want to leave. And so there's always that circumstance. But, you know, whether they want to leave or not, if they have to, having a place for them that's like dignified, independent is really important.
Okay. And lastly, any final words, and also how can listeners learn more about SymBy and maybe even see what some of your ADUs look like and connect with you?
Yeah. So if you go to the website, it's SymBy Home. It's Sim. You can see it spelled back there. I'm sure that at the end of this, you'll have something you sent out. Yeah. And so if you go to the site, you can look around. There's a contact us or book a consult. It's completely free. Set up a time to be able to get on a Zoom call and just explore what you have. And I recommend even realtors or investors, if you have something you want to explore, I'm open to exploring with you. Better to do that than to do it in a vacuum and not have good information. Be careful the information that you have and you get, and I'd love to help you. So it's really just as easy as going to the website, click on the book a consult, takes you to my calendar, and we're off to the races.
Perfect. Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your story and your vision for SymBy.
Yeah.
I love how you're giving families an option that's practical, affordable, and filled with dignity. It's clear you're not just building units, you're building peace of mind. And for those of you watching or listening, remember my promise: every episode of this show brings you real stories, tools, and insights that make senior living transitions easier so you and your loved ones can move forward with confidence instead of stress. If your loved one is considering senior living and you need to figure out what to do with their home, let's talk. You can learn more about my services and book a free consultation at www.simplifyseniortransitions.com. Have a quick question, DM me on Instagram at SoldByDale. And don't forget, the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. If you found this interview helpful, please leave a 5-star review, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Thanks for tuning in. Rebecca, one last thank you for being on the show with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Dale. I really appreciate this.
You're very welcome. And for the rest of you, I'll see you on the next episode of the Simplify Senior Transitions podcast.